Welcome to the Fictional Podcast with Christopher Gord. Today, we're going to be talking about dragons and how they can exist based on both science and mythology. First, we're going to talk about the general physiology of a dragon. A dragon is a warm-blooded creature that can control its body temperature internally. This allows the dragon to adapt to different climates, like a desert, the sea, mountains and all that such, and to maintain activities both day and night throughout the year. This means he is not dependent on warmth from the sun like other reptiles. The dragon normally has wings and his bones are hollow for lightness. However, there are dragons which are ancient survivors from distant past with stumpy legs and no wings. These are rare survivors of the era, and they are intelligent and fairly aggressive. They belong to a species known as worm of the deep, which is on the verge of extinction. This creature is known to live for a very long time. There are records of dragons who have lived for up to 1,000 years. But as so far anyone knows, there's no case of dragons who have died from old age. But there are dragons that have died from accidents, diseases, and a result of actions from humankind. Now, onto the skeleton. A dragon, if it were to exist, would be the largest known flying animal. To maintain the enormous bulk in the air, he has to be different from other reptiles, which most people inaccurately associate dragons with. His bones had to be similar to, however, his articular system would be unknown to any other species, and he would have to have support powerful wing muscles. His bones would have to be covered in reinforced concrete and had to be much lighter than that. However, any creature the physiology of a dragon should be able to fly well and at great speed. Now, the muscular system of the dragon is very fascinating. We can evaluate the power in the bite of dragon to an average of 2 tons per centimeter cube. In comparison, it could easily chew down a steel building or a jet. As a matter of fact, dragons are extremely powerful. Their leg and front legs, also known as arms, can support great charge without too much difficulty. But this only applies on ground movement, because in the air, a dragon could not maintain more than half of its weight for a long period of time. After all, it is still an animal, and not animals are all perfect. Despite this fact, it has been shown that some dragons would have much difficulty running, but they could walk. It just means they couldn't reach very great speed at ground. The scales of a dragon are tough and shiny. Dragons usually don't have this scaly armor on neck or stomach, possibly due to the habit of burrowing underground. To protect its soft abdomen, the dragon wears jeweled breastplate. Using his saliva, which has powerful adhesive properties, stronger than glue, he secretes on an empty stomach. It often sticks precious stones on its neck and stomach for protection as well as adornment. The scales itself are shaped more like a teardrop, with 2 long slides and 2 shorter ones, and a very short 5th side attached to the skin. This dragon can make it stand on end like a cat whenever he wishes to preen them. Remember, the dragon likes to be clean. Kind of like a maid likes the house to be clean, the dragon likes himself to be clean. In their normal position, the scales overlap very neatly, and thanks to a tiny cavity on the surface, they fit into each other to allow perfect freedom of movement. If we study a scale closely, we observe the following characteristics. The innermost part is composed of a compact, hairy formation firmly rooted in the epidermis. On the hair follicle there are some tiny glands which secrete a substance that adheres firmly to the skin. This substance is rich in minerals, which determine the hardness and the color of the scales. The externus surface has a horny, translucent texture, which gives the scales their habitual luster. The dragon does not need to slow off his skin like most reptiles. As the scales grow, they are renewed automatically like our hair or our nails. They are not shed from the body except in case of illness. Now for wings and the wings of a dragon are based on the principle of a bat. They consist of a thumb and 4 very lengthened fingers, the whole connected to the membrane. It is significant to understand that the similar structure between the shoulder, the arm, and the hand is homologous with the corresponding structures of the wing for the dragon. It is also important to understand the membrane of the dragon does not attach close to the shoulder, as biologically Uranus dragons can sometimes shown but near the bottom of the back of the dragon close to the thighs. It is very important since if the wings were connected to the top of the back, the dragon would fly but have a vertical position, head up, posterior, and tail down, and that would be a serious disadvantage for the speed and also for the maneuverability. When the wings are connected at the bottom of the back, the dragon can have a horizontal position, thus the head and tail can be used as rudder and allows great maneuverability, at least greater than the vertical position. This allows a greater surface for the wings, a critical element in the flight of any creature. The wings connected near the thighs give a greater surface for the wings than if they were connected near the shoulder. The long neck and tail give balance and enable the dragon to quickly gain or lose altitude. This is definitely the most probable type of wings. However, wings connected below the chest are between the wings connected near the shoulder and the wings connected near the thighs. Now for coloring, blues are ranging between dark blue to silver and mother of pearl. Red ranging from copper red to dark red and reddish black. Greens, which include every imaginable shade of green and yellow, and even dark brown, emerald green, and burnished gold. Although these principal color groups are not usually mixed, a color's dragoning is rarely uniform. In general, the scales are several hues of one main color categories, with a metallic luster which is hard to define. When the scales are pale, it is a sure sign of illness. Many dragons are known by the scales, such as Ancalagan the black, Smog the golden, and Spars the green. As for the size of the dragon, while we have proof that it could exist, it is more probable that the dragon is smaller than what we think it is. As for the eyes of the dragon, they can have round or vertical pupils, which means, that they can usually see in the dark, and they both work fairly the same way. Either way, the eyes send electrical messages to the brain, which allows them to see. And this is probably the most plausible situation since, dragons are reptilians, not bugs. However, some people say the dragons could possibly have insect-like eyes, but this is less likely because the dragon is reptilian and not a huge insect, and it would mess with the dragon's ability to see and therefore other characteristics that we have been known to associate with dragons. Now, dragons' eyes appearing like a crystal, which means no slit at all, possibly no pupils. This is an interesting idea. This would also allow for the eyes to focus on anything no matter the distance. It would be extremely useful for evaluating deepness, but if the eyes are focused on every distance all the time, and if your brain is able to tell what signals on which later the photoreceptors, then the brain no longer needs two eyes to know the exact distance between the creature and the object. This will allow the dragon to have his eyes slightly more on the side and have a greater angle of view without sacrificing their ability to determine deepness. Another advantage to this kind of eyes would be to increase the angles. Birds have their eyes on each side and humans have right in the front. We humans, with our eyes squarely in the front of our heads, can see about 180 degrees, but we need to direct our eyes in the direction of the object to have a clear picture. The crystalline type of eyes would be focused not only for the object of all range, but also in all directions. This means once you come into their angle of vision, it's like the dragon's looking directly at you all the time, while we cannot describe very well a person sitting in the corner of our vision. The main disadvantage would be their inability to have one point where all their light receptors can be gathered. Owls, for example, have a very dense retina, and this allows them to see small creatures even if they're far away from them. In a crystalline eye, this situation cannot exist. They have good visual activity, but not as high as animals renowned for their vision. Does this mean a dragon with such eyes and cannot have a great vision? Absolutely not. Again, we humans have a vision angle of 180 degrees and about 140 degrees of binocular overlap. Dragons with crystalline eyes could have an angle vision around 220 degrees, an overlap of 110 degrees. The object outside the overlapping degrees of both eyes would greatly increase the resolution of the object, while remaining the angled vision, which would be less defined, but more defined than the visual activity of the corner of our eyes. The degree where the vision of the dragon overlap would be equivalent to the area of the sharpest focus and would obviously be much greater than ours. As for the possibility of the glowing crystalline eyes, that's just no. It would be good artistically, for art, make them look pretty good, but scientifically, it is complete nonsense. It would not work, and it might screw up the dragon's eyesight. Now it comes to classification and evolution, which is my favorite part, because I'm a nerd for evolution. Now, many of you might wonder what class the dragons would be in. The dragons cannot be considered as reptiles because they are active and warm-blooded, and they cannot be mammals because they lay eggs and they do not produce milk. And they also can't be birds because, they have scales and 6 members. However, the dragons have elements of all these classes. For birds, they have hollow bones and they lay eggs. For reptiles, they lay eggs and they also have scales. For mammals, they have the same kind of heart, which is a 4-chamber heart, and they have specialized teeth. And as unknown, which is unknown to us, they have 6 members, which means they have 2 pairs of legs and arms and 1 pair of wings. Thus, the dragon can be in its own class. It would be a mistake to consider them in the current class because they do not answer the physical criteria required to belong to one or the other. Now for the evolution, the most plausible assumption goes up with the first primitive reptiles. When those divides to follow different paths of evolution to become the dinosaurs, which became the actual birds, the mammals, and other adept reptiles. The dragons separate from either dinosaurs or right before the mammal junction, which gave some kind of reptile with mammal appearance, which looks strangely close to a dragon without wings. With a few tens of thousands of years, some beneficial mutations could have given them wings that could help them survive. This new branch in the evolution could explain the evolution of dragons. Now we go on to a very interesting part, the breath weapon of a dragon. Now, there's 3 different kinds. There's a fire breather, which we will cover first, the cold frost breather, which we will cover next, and lastly, the acid breather. First, the fire. This breath weapon of a dragon is not a magical thing that's spread out nowhere, but it can have a scientific explanation. Now, to understand the scientific explanation, we have to understand our own body to understand the dragons. Now, our body, when we eat, it creates a gas known as methane. Now, dragons, unlike humans and other animals, store this gas in another kind of lung that will serve as a bag and canister to hold the gas that will later be mixed with small amounts of phosphor that has the power to ignite the fire in the contact of air. When the dragon wants to breathe fire, the methane is released into the lung, and when the gas is in the air, the phosphor ignites and puts the methane in fire. Now, for the cold frost breathers. Now, some dragons can breathe a cone of frost. The explanation for this resides in the food that a dragon ingests. The food is broken down into the stomach, primarily for nutrition, but the remains bear some chemicals that will give gas. Some suppose this to be nitrogen, but the exact composition is not found, but it is the most probable natural refrigeration gas so far. The gas is compressed by extremely strong muscles, exactly like the basis of our refrigeration system. The dragon doesn't need a thing for it because it is spontaneous and painless. When a dragon needs to freeze an opponent, the highly compressed nitrogen that almost reached the liquid state is released in the lungs, and when the gas comes into the air, it uncompresses at an unimaginable speed. The result is the gas absorbs all the heat in the environment. This causes the temperature in the breath to drop very low. We estimate it to be below negative 50 Celsius, but more testing to be done to know a more exact temperature. And since we haven't seen a dragon and don't know if it exists, this is the best estimate we can come up with. Caught in the path of the frozen breath without heavy protection, or at least seriously injured, and if they are weaker than average human, then they're probably going to die. Now, this breath may have another explanation, by extremely efficient and fast oxidation reduction reactions, but I do not know too much about that, so it's not going to be explained for the cold frost breath. Now, for the acid breath, this is the easiest of them all. All organic creatures secrete gastric acid to break down their food. A dragon who can spit acid have a special organ that produces a powerful acid, probably hydroxychloride, that a dragon releases when they breathe. The opponent is burned by the acid, even when the best armor usually made of metal that make bad reaction to acid. For other breath weapons, least know to follow the same principle and don't need much detail about them. Now, what someone has noticed during their research, there seems to be a direct link between the breath and the food. If a dragon is starving, their breath weapon does not regenerate. All the incredible systems of a dragon makes it the most fascinating creature in the known universe, if it exists. Like I said before, we do not know if it exists, but it would be really cool if it does. Really cool. I wish I could take one and ride one, or maybe even, hunt them down. That would be pretty cool, but not unless they're extinct. Anyway, we're getting off topic there. Next, we're going to be hammering down reproduction. For the reproduction, it is internal, which means that the look of their external, physiology and all that, it is hard, not to say impossible, but hard to determine if the dragon is male or female. Only the general behavior and the small change in their color can provide information about a dragon's gender. Dragons lead eggs like reptiles and birds. Eggs are protected by a hard shell that with the time will weaken to let the baby dragon break it more easily. The incubation period of these dragons are unknown. Some eggs will hatch in a year, others 2, and maybe even 5 years. We don't know. The dragon eggs are rich in calcium, and the newborns eat the shell, probably a nutrient in it. The mating process is known as dragoncide. The two dragons fly high into the sky, after a moment grab each other and close their wings and make a free fall, which is similar to how an eagle mates. Then, at least 100 feet from the ground, they open their wings and land. The dragon's unusual mating process is mainly because dragons love speed and risk, at least to the pressure of love, and you have a sensation that a human could never enjoy. Now, to make the gender, dragons are like crocodiles. Lower the temperature and you can have a female, higher the temperature and you can have a male. Now, for society, there's no current way to tell what kind of organization or type of societies dragons have. Legends and lores often say the dragons tend to be lone by nature or by obligation. According to these legends, dragons pass much of their time alone in their lair. During this time, they learn about their environment and how to use it wisely. Because they are alone a great deal of the time, most of them enjoy the company of other dragons and even humans as long as they haven't come to the goal of stealing or conquest. It may be possible that dragons have some sort of council led by an elderly dragon, but this has yet to be proven. But that would be epic. Just imagine, walking the mountain, just accidentally seeing a meeting of dragons with this, huge old dragon just, leading it. We probably won't be able to, understand them, but it would still be pretty sweet to see all this. Now, for dragons and mankind. Throughout history / lore, dragons and humans have been unable to live peacefully together. As a result, mankind has not been able to benefit from ancient dragon knowledge if they exist. Our craving for power and religious beliefs has kept Europe engulfed in bloody struggles. The dragons could not understand the reasons for man's self-destructive behavior and kept well out of the way, retreating to remote hiding places far from all this confusion, which would make sense why we haven't seen them, and also increases the possibility of them existing and being highly intelligent. Shrouded in mystery, the dragon's trail remained lost in the obscurity of legend. However, the dragons securely pursued their quest for knowledge without completely excluding the human race, since they accepted and taught those few men who have sought the essence of truth. We could wonder what would happen if dragons revealed themselves to the eyes of humankind. Would we be able to accept another form of intelligence, probably far superior to our own? Or would we feel the need to fight them? In my personal opinion, we would probably fight them. Not because I want to fight them, no. I would think it would be awesome to, learn from them. Well, and to fight them, but mostly to learn from them. But knowing humankind, we fear the unknown, and dragons would be unknown to us, so we would be scared of them. Now for arts and jewels, because every dragon's a hoarder. I mean, come on. They see shiny things, they're probably going to take shiny things. Or at least according to lore. Now, this could also include to art, especially of gold and silver, because like I said before, according to lore, they like to hoard stuff. However, they are not renowned for their love of manual work, preferring intellectual activity by far. This is why a dragon does not devote themselves to creating jewels, but only to acquiring them from humans. Various methods: robbery, looting, trade, barter, and fraud. Oh, so dragons aren't all that, pure. Anyway, by any means, fair or foul, which enables them to come by jewels and precious stones they covet. The dragon feels they never have enough jewels and find it difficult to part voluntarily with any one of their treasures. So pretty much, the reptilian hoarders. They belong in that show, if they exist. Even though, for example, they give jewels to favorites in their family, they do it purely because they know the young maidens cannot remove the jewels to the outside world. They are very jealous of their belongings and guard the treasure they build up over the years in large storerooms. They keep detailed inventories of all their possessions so that they can be alerted of it if a single object goes missing. Jewels serve a specific purpose for the dragon in that they usually sleep on a bed of gems and luxurious fabrics such as silks and velvets. For this bed, they never use soft stones like pearls and emeralds, as they are way too fragile. You don't want your stones to break. You want something nice and sturdy. Another theory says that dragons also hoard precious items for reasons other than simple obsession. At level, we humans are incapable of feeling different metals and other items resonate at certain levels, especially gold and silver. The dragons could use this resonation to their advantage, controlling and manipulating it. In a nutshell, it enhances their already remarkable mystic powers. In addition to enhancing these powers, the resonation also had the same addictive effect as a rush in humans. Hence, the more a dragon acquired, the more they wanted. This is also allowed in their immediate detection of any piece. Now, this is based on a research I found upon dragons, mostly on one source, but it's also varied on a little bit on other sources I've researched. If you have anything to add onto this, please add in the comments. And remember, if you like this content, like and subscribe.